Yo, what's going on, everybody? This is Nothing But Bangers, aka MBB, aka Bangers, aka today I've got a very interesting deck list that has been dominating in multiple tournaments that are some of the biggest tournaments that happen on the weekends. And it's a deck that you're probably familiar with, but I've got a little bit of a new layout that I'm going to test out for this video. So let me know what you think at the end of the video, but let's get to it. So this week in the Pocket League Legends, we ended up seeing a Pikachu EX deck make it to the top. And this deck probably was something that, would have slid under the radar, another Pikachu deck winning. But one of the things that happened this weekend that was really interesting was that same deck list ended up winning the Ursi Day tournament. And so what we're seeing here is even the same person that won this tournament ended up going to the Ursi tournament as well in the same 24 hours and also getting top cut. What was also phenomenal about this performance is that there were 3 people in the Ursi Day top cut that were playing the exact identical Pikachu deck list, and they actually ended up all doing very well, with one of them winning the Ursi Day tournament. So again, this Pikachu deck list that you're watching on the right side of the screen, and we'll kind of talk about some of these card choices as well, not only did it win the Pocket League Legends, it also ended up winning the Ursi Day tournament, and it went up against all sorts of different decks as well. So it wasn't like it was dodging its hardest matchup and kind of needing that matchup RNG. But when you take a look at the Ursi Day tournament as well, you can see that it even took on 2 different decks in the finals. Now, what was really kind of funny, and I don't know if you guys watched it on Twitch, I was lucky enough to beat the co-streamer this weekend with Ursi, and what was really funny is 2 times in the Ursi Day top cut, we actually saw an exact 20 card mirror match with this Pikachu deck. The first one was in top 32, and then the second one was maybe in top 8 or something. But this deck list has a lot of good things going for it, and hopefully you're kind of able to kind of see some of that in the gameplay. But I also wanted to kind of break it down with you and address some of the big issues that I know you may think this deck has. Like, the number one issue that people are going to say is that, hey, there's a lot of fighting decks, there's a lot of Aerodactyl, Marshadow, there's even Tauros out there, and all of that stuff really does a good job countering Pikachu. Now, there's actually a little bit of pushback to that, and when we analyze this deck list, we'll kind of go ahead and go into a little bit of reasoning as to why that's the case. So this is the deck list, and to kind of just talk through it a little bit, one of the first things that's going to stand out is the Electabuzz. Now, it was really ironic, while we were watching this deck on stream and while we were casting this deck for the Ursi Day tournament, I kind of noted, hey, Electabuzz is pretty much not doing much except being another basic that's on the bench that's counting, for Pikachu EX's attack. And lo and behold, later in that same match, Electabuzz ends up clinching the game. So just kind of running through this, and a lot of this is going to be very familiar, right? So you're playing the double Pikachu, you're playing the single Zapdos EX, which, believe it or not, there are going to be some times where you are going to be happy that you have that Zapdos EX, and then you've got your sniper technology with Blitzel that evolves into Zebstrika, and Zebstrika plays a pivotal role in keeping those Gyarados decks at bay. It plays a pivotal role in the mirror match, and even if Gyarados does hit the board, like the game you may or may not be watching on the other side of the screen here, there are times where sniping it and putting damage on it can soften it enough to where your Pikachu can come in and actually finish it off if they decide to send in that Gyarados. Now, there's going to be some scenarios where the opponent actually may decide, like, oh man, there's so much damage on my Gyarados, I just build it up for nothing. I'm not even going to bring it in. And that's fine too. But one key misplay that I would also point out in the game that is going on right there is I actually spent a turn powering up Pikachu when it should have been powered up on the Electabuzz. And I actually would have got that Gyarados down even lower. I would have got it down to 80 HP instead of, or excuse me, 60 HP as opposed to the 100 that you're seeing on the screen. But again, you know, when you take a look at this deck, it's pretty straightforward. Now let's talk about some more card choices here. So when you start talking about some of the other card choices in here, Dedenne is a card that I put on my top 15, you know, best mythical island cards. And Dedenne is one of those cards that has the potential to give you an extra turn and flip the tables in a mirror match or in any matchup. There's also the really interesting interaction that Dedenne has with Moltres EX. And, you know, fire decks aren't completely dead like we thought they would be with, you know, Charizard being hard countered by Mew EX. And so Moltres is something that you will run into, you know, in some tournaments and even in the random ladder. But Dedenne does a really interesting job of, you know, if you go second and they open Moltres, if you flip a heads to paralyze the Moltres, you actually may really slow down their entire engine while also getting your Pikachu potentially ready to just move in and KO that Moltres. And they may only get one flip, right? One coin flip to ramp. And that can really slow down any deck that's playing Moltres and put them in a really weird position. So Dedenne has a lot of different applications, and I do think that it is something that, you know, probably almost every Pikachu deck should be playing. And then again, you know, you're kind of looking at it as like, yeah, it's a little bit squishy, but you're hoping that, hey, it's either going to extend the game just a little bit longer for me to get the correct amount of energies on either my Zapdos or my Pikachu EX to kind of come back in the game, or maybe you're kind of just chipping damage and you're able to get lucky with some coin flips, or you're just chipping damage enough to where your Pikachu EX or Zapdos EX can come in and finish something off. Obviously, the Electabuzz is something that, you know, is a little niche. You know, you're not going to always get a lot of value out of the Electabuzz, but the Electabuzz will shine and really come up in some really interesting scenarios where maybe you weren't able to finish off a Pokemon, they retreated out of it, but you're able to slowly get energy on that Electabuzz because your attacks can be pretty cheap in this Pikachu EX deck, right? You start looking at Zapdos, you start looking at Dedenne, you start looking at Zebstrika. Those are all one energy attacks, so they don't take a lot of time for you to get ready, and because of that, it allows you time to get energy on that Electabuzz. Now, 40 damage can be applied anywhere on your opponent's side of the board. So even if they try to hide in the active spot, like some Magikarps will try to do to hide from a Zebstrika, it actually still can hit the active spot. And keep in mind, if it's in the active spot, you can Giovanni as well to increase that damage. But again, Electabuzz, it may do nothing for 3 or 4 games, but then it might just swoop in and be the finishing damage that you need to win a game. Now, some of the other trainer choices, which is something that definitely needs to be talked about, especially if you're trying to kind of optimize and figure out the best way to play this deck. But for now, I do think 2 Sabrinas is 100% the way to go. And a lot of the reason why that's the case is it's going to help snipe some Pokemon that may be, you know, the only Pokemon on your opponent's bench. And with Pikachu having the power to hit for 90 damage very early, that can be something that pretty much puts you in a position where you can win the game. And so you'll see that happen in some matchups, like maybe a Mewtwo matchup where they do have a Kirlia on the bench, but it's their only Pokemon, and you're able to snipe it out and KO it before it gets to a Gardevoir. You know, that's game winning in a lot of cases. There may be some scenarios where, you know, hey, you need to Sabrina out their Magikarp for whatever reason. Maybe you don't have a sniper, but you're Sabrina out that Magikarp and you're hitting it with the Zapdos, or you're hitting it with the Blitzel, or, you know, even because of that electric weakness, you're hitting it with the Dedenne and cutting it off before it gets going. And so double Sabrina really allows you to, you know, have the ability to snipe things. Obviously, there's the defensive side of Sabrina as well. And one of the other benefits of playing 2 Sabrinas is you feel a little bit better about ripping it early game because you know you still have one left in your deck. I know from a lot of experience that sometimes when you play 1 Sabrina, you end up holding on to it and really valuing it, which is not a bad thing. But it's something that, hey, it could be addressed if you're able to play and fit 2 Sabrinas in the deck. The other supporter that, needs to be talked about, obviously you're running double Professor Research, because duh. But Giovanni. Giovanni is going to make a lot of your breakpoints match. And one of the most obvious breakpoints is that Dredagon breakpoint, right? Let's just say that you have a full bench and you have Pikachu EX. Well, now that Giovanni is going to make that Dredagon pretty much a one-hit KO. Now, the other things that will come into play with Giovanni is it will fix damage and, put you in the right spot sometimes. Even when you talk about, hey, maybe you were able to put 40 damage on a Gyarados, and maybe you were able to go ahead and, stack some damage with Zebstrika on something. Giovanni can potentially be that extra 10 damage that you need to ensure a knockout. And so Giovanni is something that definitely would play as a one-of. And when you talk about the double X speed in this deck, it's pretty obvious you want that double X speed. There's some Pikachu lists playing Leaf and double X speed, but honestly, I think that right now, this deck list is about as good as it gets for Pikachu. And I know that you could make the argument, oh yeah, Leaf helps you save those X speeds, save energy, but I just don't think it's necessary, and I would rather have the double Potion, which is the next trainer that I want to talk about with this deck. So Potion is going to be one of those cards that's going to extend the life of your Pokemon as long as you use it at critical breakpoints. One of the big important things that Electabuzz also can help erase is the effectiveness of Potion. And so if you are playing in a mirror match and you think that, Potion puts you out of range, maybe for that Zebstrika, well, guess what? Sometimes that 10 HP difference can be solved with Electabuzz. And so double Potion is something that I would 100% be playing in all of my Pikachu EX decks. And again, when you play that double Potion, it can fix your Pokemon into a way that they're able to survive one additional turn. Maybe you kind of dodge a knockout and, then you're able to pivot out of the active spot because of that after you attack them again. So there's just a lot of applications where Potion is going to be very valuable. So again, this is something that I think I definitely agree with every one of these cards in this deck. And if you want to play Pikachu EX, I think this is a great way to go in the current state of the metagame because it addresses a lot of things with the deck. I hope you guys enjoy the video and the different, layout that I tried for this video. And again, appreciate you for tuning in, for letting me be background noise. Or maybe you learned something, or hey, it's just entertainment. But until next time, I'll catch you later. Peace.